this week, I looked at the newest Kamen Rider Blu-ray. So let's circle back around and talk about new Ultraman Mill Creek.
It's morphin' time!
Hello, this is Soundout here, and today we're taking a look at not one, but two brand new Ultraman Mill Creek DVD sets. First of all, we have Ultraman Kids from December 2022, and Ultraman Max from January 2023. These are essentially the last two releases in what I call the original contract or Phase 1 of Mill Creek's Ultraman. From everything I can tell online, these are the last two things they licensed in their initial 2019 deal. And because of that, we actually don't know what comes beyond this, beyond another random release we'll talk about in a bit. This is going to be a two-segment video. First, we're going to look at Kids and Max and see if these are worthy additions to the collection, and then we're going to talk about what hasn't been released from the Ultra series. And I have a list that's too long for anybody's business, but we're going to go through it anyways. And on that note, let's find out, is Kids and Max any good, and should you pick them up? Let's discuss them. Alright, so here are two releases that we're looking at today as kind of like the main portion of the review portion. Ultraman Kids and Ultraman Max. Let's talk Kids. So this is a really obscure Ultraman anime where all the Ultraman are kids and they have like kaiju friends and stuff, and it's adorable. And until this release happened, I didn't even know this was a thing. So this has got to be by far the most obscure Mill Creek Ultraman release, and this is where I kind of have this theory that if they can get something, they will. Because I don't think anyone was like demanding Ultraman Kids, with its long subtitle 3 Million Light Years in Search of Mother, on DVD, but here we are, and it's great. I love that we got something this obscure. Now, this set is a little incomplete, but we'll talk about that in a moment. First of all, you can see the spine here is pretty good. On the back, you got the little like description. Mars, the leader of the Ultraman Kids, and it's like a really fun like kids show. This was done in the 1990s. Now, there was a TV special in 1984 called Ultraman Kids, and that is not included on the set, even though it was on the Japanese DVD release. So I'm just going to assume that it wasn't available for licensing. But you can see in the back there, you've got the Ultraman Kids playing soccer or football, depending on your country of choice. And then each disc has got unique disc art, which is crazy. And I think, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There are about 6 episodes per disc. It's a 26-episode show across 4 DVDs. You can see each one of the main characters is there. And yeah, I don't know what else to say besides let's look at the quality. Spoiler alert, not amazing, but considering what it is, let's see how it is. There's no way around it. The Ultraman Kids video quality is rough. This show does not seem to be well preserved. You can see the jagged edge on one side. This is just how the show is. It's not going to get a full transfer because it's not even that well known. So it just looks really rough. It's a 90s anime. It probably was on videotape. There probably is no film stock still existing. This is the best it's going to look, which is not amazing. And you can especially see shots like this where there's not close-ups on the characters. They get a little blurry and fuzzy. The subtitles seem alright, but yeah, the picture quality is not amazing. Alright, so here we have Ultraman Max. Now this was the January release that I think a lot of people were waiting for. Like I said, this was kind of like the conclusion of the original contract from everything we can tell, because this is the last main Ultraman TV series that was set to be released. We got all the main shows that were aired in Japan. Very nice cover art like usual. We've got Max here, we've got Zenon, who's only in a couple episodes, and one of the kaiju. On the side banner, that same image of Max and Zenon with the Ultraman Max logo. And on the back, we got a shot of Max with Ella King. And this is pretty good. So this is another shorter series like Nexus, and it is across 6 discs, also like Nexus. So it's only 39 episodes. Now, what's pretty cool here is that you've got about 6 episodes per disc. Unfortunately, just like with Nexus, they reuse the same art on all of this. I'm just going to assume because, I don't know, Super Riot was very, very broke in the mid-2000s when they made Nexus and Max. Not kind of broke like they are now. Very, very broke. You can see one of the monsters there on the back. There's just not the assets for this, because this and Nexus are the only ones that have, I think, the same artwork on every disc, where all the others have different artwork, including Kids. Nice shot of Max. Now, much like with the other Heisei shows that don't have the slip boxes, the spine is red with a black logo, and then you have kind of the matching images, so if you wanted to match the inner cases for Tiga, Dinah, and Gaia. The booklet here, we've got Max, information episode guide. In here, of course, we've got Ultraman Max himself, We got Ultraman Max Galaxy, which is technically a form. It's more so that he's just holding the Galaxy sword there. And then Ultraman Xenon as well is included. And then we have the actual defense teams. So we've got the United Defense Federation and the Defense Action Squad Heroes. And you can see all of their weapons. What's funny is it's like, oh, hey, here's the arsenal of like the vehicles and the blasters and the ID. And then here's their 2 robots. Anyways, pretty cool. Here's a list of kaiju from the series. And then we're back to having individual kaiju images, like Ultraman and the kaiju images on the guide. With Nexus, because Nexus takes several episodes to defeat individual kaiju, they didn't have that, but it's nice to see it return here. And you can see it's got everything there. So this is a complete set. Nothing is missing from it. We'll talk about what was missing from Nexus, because I didn't quite comprehend something that was missing from Nexus. But with Max, it's everything, I believe, that has ever been released for Max in this set. So honestly, pretty great. How is the picture quality? So for being a pre-HD series, Max looks pretty good on its DVD. Subtitle font is good, and overall it seems like the timing and the grammar is pretty alright. Group shots inside the base, of course, look nice because they have the good lighting, but you can see that there's no artifacting or ghosting going on, which I think is really, really nice. And even effect shots like this one of Max are well composited. The show is not going to look crystal clear HD, but for being a DVD, it looks pretty solid, much like how Mabius, Nexus, and Cosmos did. Alright, so the last thing with Max, of course, is how does it line up with others from its era. So here we got Cosmos, Nexus, Max, and Mabius. These are the Heisei Ultras before the HD era, after the TGG era. Look, here's the thing. I do miss the slip boxes. I really do. They helped protect them in shipment, too, because the slip box could take some of the actual brunt of the force here. But, okay. Now, I said this back when Mabius happened, and I was like, if at least this era looks consistent, I'm probably going to be fine. And outside of Nexus, of course, having images down here as well as above, this does look pretty fine. You know, they're each a little bit different, but they have the logo about the same spot, Mill Creek logo. You know, on the top it says series and special for these 3, and then Max, of course, just says complete series. I don't mind the Nexus part being down here because Nexus is such a different series, and I don't mind Cosmos having like the cosmic background wrap. It looks fine. I think they actually look good. I mean, overall, like the covers on these, despite them not having the slip covers, I think the actual cover art is beautiful on all of them. It's evocative of each show. And I think that as a whole, you know, even though we don't have the slip boxes, which is a bummer, they look fine on a shelf because it's not just one. Like if it was just one of these that didn't have the slip cover, it's that whole era that doesn't. And so that's why, you know, I would prefer the slip covers, but I can live with this because they do look nice on a shelf together. So here it is. Here is everything Mill Creek has released for Ultraman. This is an insane collection, considering we started with Ultra Q back in October 2019, and we just added Max in January 2023. So in just about 3 years, we've got a large majority of the Ultra series, all the main TV shows, pretty much most of the main movies, and even a lot of spin-off stuff like Kids, things like we got The Ultraman, which I wasn't even sure we could get because of the Sunrise co-production. And then, you know, we got other things like Ultra 7X on Blu-ray for the first time in the world. Just wonderful, wonderful releases. Now, the thing is, there are, you know, these are not perfect releases by any means. I have talked about some of the subtitle qualities of the Ultraman in 80 are really rough. Or the Ultraman subs are really rough. 80's picture quality is really rough. Zaerth looks like a weird bootleg. But it is really impressive to get a lot of these releases like this. I think some of the worst ones would be like the Gridman set because the subtitles just aren't up to snuff. Like I said, Zaerth and 80 don't look good. The Ultraman subtitles are pretty bad. Overall, I think most of them are pretty solid. And especially, I think, when we can factor in price. They're not charging $60 a set. We're getting them for between like 20 and 30. And when they're on sale, you can get them for like $10. So it's kind of hard to say, you know, okay, yeah, maybe the subs are reused from previous streaming versions. That's fine because the price we're getting it for. This whole collection, to complete it, does not cost you an arm and a leg. I'm a big anime collector. As you can see, all these Gundam sets, like, you know, one volume of Zeta was like $50. So to get all of Zeta, you're spending like over $100. And if you want the compilation movie, there's another $35. Whereas down here with Ultraman, you could get the entire like Showa era for that price. So it's just insanely impressive pricing. It's really competitive, but more specifically, it's really cool that we got all these releases. Part of that did help that Tsuburaya had translations available for a lot of these shows prior to their Mill Creek release. Now, while I am still sad that we have this whole chunk in the middle that is DVD, and while I would have preferred a standard definition Blu-ray release for all of those, so we could have had Blu-ray across the board, I understand that there's challenges when it comes to releasing standard definition Blu-ray if the company is not familiar with doing that process, and so they just didn't do that. And Mill Creek, being a more mainstream company, is going to not want market confusion by releasing standard definition Blu-ray, because only niche audiences really understand that. Now, that being said, if they went back and redid any of these on Blu-ray, I'd totally pick them up. But as it stands, where are we looking with Ultraman? We have a ton of Ultraman right here, but what is missing from the Ultra series yet to be released by Mill Creek? I'm going to answer this question in more detail than you ever wanted right now. So overall, Kids and Max are good additions to the collection. They don't have the most perfect video quality, but the source they come from is not the most perfect. I think the subtitles are pretty good on both for the most part, and honestly, you're worth picking up both of these. Kids is going to be a weird one. This is for you completionists or people that really like animes where the Ultramans are kids, but Max, I think, is an essential part of an Ultraman disc collection. Now, on that note, we talk about collections. We talk about how much Mill Creek has released, but what haven't they released, and what is the likelihood of it being released? I have compiled a list. This list does not include Blu-ray versions of Tiga, Dyna, Gaia, or Zay-Earth. Even though those exist in Japan and we for some reason got those shows on DVD, I'm not including those. If it's been released, I'm considering it released. I'm not including original airing versions of Zero the Chronicle or Ginga for the same reason. It seems like the release we got is the release we got. This is every Ultra Series production, not every Tsuburaya production, I didn't go that far. Every Ultra Series production that's currently not available on a Mill Creek disc, and there's a lot of them, but we're going to go through it one by one, and I'll tell you the likelihood of it being released based on my personal knowledge of everything we've seen so far. The list I have is put in order of their original productions in Japan. This is to include everything that we could possibly have in a nice, orderly list. Now, not everything I say is 100%, this is definitely happening, this is definitely not happening. I'm talking likelihoods because I have done research on this. This is my personal opinion of what I think is likely to come out and unlikely to come out, based on everything we know. I could be completely wrong because I don't work at Mill Creek or Tsuburaya to know the ins and outs of some of the legal things that we're going to talk about. I'm just going to use past experiences of the releases so far to give us an idea. First up, 1983's Andro Melos. This was a 45-episode series of 5-minute episodes. It was produced sort of to be standalone, but it does fit in the Ultraman universe, especially with Andro Melos himself showing up in the Ultra Galaxy Fight series. Because of this, I think that the chance of us getting Andro Melos is actually kind of likely, and if we do, it would be a DVD release as there is no Blu-ray source in Japan. Now, it does seem kind of obscure, but we got Ultraman Kids, so I think it's going to go, it's a likely release if they can do the clearance on the legals. Now, 1984's Ultraman Story Movie. Now, this is a compilation film for the most part. It's included here simply because it does have sequences with Ultraman Taro as a child. Now, the other compilation movies I think have been said that they couldn't get the rights to, and also I don't see the point of most of the compilation movies. This one has new content, but would it be worthy of a standalone release? I don't know. It's also only ever received a DVD release in Japan, so if we did get it, it's going to be a DVD, but I'm putting this one as really unlikely. The 1984 Ultraman Kids special. Like I talked about with the actual Ultraman Kids set, it wasn't included there, so the chances of it being included at all is unlikely. I don't know if they could put out a second, single disc Ultraman Kids special. The series itself does seem to kind of build off of what that special did, but does stand alone. So I'm going to say this one's really unlikely because we would have gotten it if we could have. Now, 1987's Ultraman The Adventure Begins, also known as Ultraman USA, was a co-production with Hanna-Barbera and Ashi Productions as well as Tsuburaya. Now, of course, Ashi Productions was the ones that did Dankuga and several other anime, and they're based in Japan. However, the Hanna-Barbera connection, because they're now owned by Warner Brothers, may be where there's a bit of a snag on this. Now, this did receive a Blu-ray in Japan with the English and Japanese audio, so there is a potential chance of us getting this, especially with Ultraman Chuck, Ultraman Scott, and Ultrawoman Beth appearing in the Ultra Galaxy Fights and the Ultraman Regulo series. I think there's a market for this to be released, especially on a Blu-ray, I'm going to give this a 50-50 shot, because it all depends on if they can figure out all the co-production legal things. Though with Warner Brothers hurting for money, maybe we can make a deal. Now, 1990's Ultra Q the movie, Legend of the Stars. This is another one that's sort of a weird thing. It's sort of a sequel to Ultra Q as a standalone movie. I'm not exactly sure how Ultra Q and Neo Ultra Q sold compared to the Ultraman series. So this one's, I think, going to be more based on how those sales were. So I'm going to give it a 50-50 shot, and if we do get it, it will be a DVD. Now, 1990's Ultraman Graffiti Wild Ultra Country was a 6-episode OVA released on a single VHS tape in 1990. This is highly unlikely to get a release. I would say almost impossible, because it hasn't even received a DVD release in Japan. It only had that VHS tape. So the likelihood of this getting released at all, it would first need its own new subtitles, but if they aren't going to release it on disc in Japan, there's likely we're not getting it here. Now, 1992's Ultraman Towards the Future / Ultraman Great is in a similar boat to Ultraman USA. It was 13 episodes, it was co-produced with the South Australia Film Corporation, and it aired in the US. Even though I don't think all the episodes did, it did air in the US and did get a toy line. So I think Ultraman Great has some kind of standing within the Western fandom and would sell on a release. Now in Japan, Ultraman Great did receive a Blu-ray, so hopefully we get the same treatment here. But once again, 50-50, because how is it going to work out with the international distribution rights and whoever owns what the South Australia Film Corp is doing anymore. Now in 1993, even though it didn't air until 1995, they produced Ultraman the Ultimate Hero / Ultraman Powered. Now this was a co-production with Major Havoc Entertainment, who's no longer in business. It was produced in the US, but never aired in the US because Power Rangers happened. And this is another 13-episode series. Same boat, I think, as Powered in USA. They have to sort it out with the co-production and who owns the rights of whatever was done, and then probably release it. Now, Great and Powered are kind of paired up as the two international Ultraman that were done in live action, and they have appeared in Ultra Galaxy fights. So I think the market definitely exists for them, but can they clear the rights? That's the part I don't know. 1993's Super Battle, Ultraman vs. Kamen Rider, never coming out, not happening, don't even think or dream about it, because the fact it got a Blu-ray in 2011 in Japan took so much work that they actually barely even existed, and yeah, we're not getting it internationally. Kamen Rider is having trouble even nailing down to stick to one company. There's no way that Ultraman vs. Kamen Rider is coming out anywhere outside Japan. Now the next thing is kind of a big gap in the releases, which is the Heisei Ultra 7 material. First of all, we have the 1994 Heisei Ultra 7 in TV specials, which are sequels to Ultra 7 that sort of ignore Jack and onwards as happening. There's also the Ultra 7 30th Anniversary Memorial Trilogy, which is 3 episodes, the Ultra 7 Final Chapters, 6 episodes, and Ultra 7 Evolution, which is 5 episodes. Those aired between 1994 and 2002, they were direct-to-video specials. A lot of those feature Dan Moriboshi's original actor from 7 and work as an alternate universe continuation. This is quite a bit of stuff that we haven't seen released here. Now, because they were direct-to-video, there may be some sort of restrictions that come with the home video companies. But I'm going to say it's likely they're going to come out because we did get Ultraman Neos on DVD, and that was also a direct-to-video series. It did have a TV run after, but it was produced as direct-to-video. So I'm going to put this in the likely category, but if we do, it will be a DVD. All right, 1996's Ultraman Super Fighter Legend. This was a 4-episode OVA that has the Ultramans sort of as shonen anime martial arts guys. And this was a original toy line tie-in that was released to VHS and eventually got a DVD, but not until it was a P Bandai exclusive set with reissues of the old figures. So I'm going to put this one as unlikely. It's not like impossible, but it's really obscure, even more so than Ultraman Kids. So I'm going to put it in the unlikely, since even in Japan, they only sold it with toys. Now, in 1997 and 1998, there was 2 shorts produced called Ultra Neon, which was a cat that became an Ultra-like character. And yes, these are official Ultra series releases. The first short was never released in Japan on DVD, only on Laserdisc. So there is some kind of weird trapping there because they never released it. The second short was released on DVD, in addition to, I think, also being on Laserdiscs, and I don't think we're going to get either of these. It's just they're too short. Where do you put them? I think in Japan, they included them with the movies they originally aired with. We've already gotten those movies, so Yeah, really unlikely on Ultra Neon. 1999's Ultraman Nice, despite the character showing up in Ultra Galaxy Fight, is actually from 41-minute infomercials. And yeah, these were mostly to promote like toys and stuff, so I doubt we'll get a home video release because there isn't one in Japan even. And yeah, that's a shame because I think Ultraman Nice is kind of like a weird little, extra character, and he's known because of the commercials, but he's super duper obscure and his series is commercials, so I don't know how you could actually release that. 1999's Ultraman M78 Theater Love and Peace Special. This was a short. Once again, how do you release it? I'm putting this as very unlikely. I'm not even sure if it got a DVD release. I think it did because there is a version circulating online with fan subs. But again, it would have been packed in with the movie that it aired with in theaters, which we didn't get it there. And it's just a lot of these weird little shorts I just don't see releases happening for. Now, 2000's Ultraman Tiga The Final Odyssey. This was the thing that was missing from the Tiga set, was the sequel movie. Now, at the time the Tiga set was announced, and at the time the Mill Creek deal was signed, this movie was off limits even in Japan at times. It wasn't streaming on Tsuburaya Imagination, neither was Tiga, Dyna, and the Tiga and Dyna movie, I think. So those weren't streaming. Now they are. You can watch Tiga Final Odyssey on Tsuburaya Imagination in Japan, which is their Ultraman and Tsuburaya streaming service. And since that's cleared up, maybe the international rights could be cleared up and we could see a single disc Blu-ray of this put out. Hoping. This one's in the 50-50 category. If they can figure it out, I would be very happy. Now, 2002's Ultraman Cosmos 2 Young Musashi chapter. This is the recut of Ultraman Cosmos 2, where they removed the main actor because there was a scandal that ended up all being under false pretenses and Tsuburaya looked foolish. This would have just come with the Ultraman Cosmos set, and it didn't, and I don't think we're missing anything. It's just one of those weird little side alternate cuts of something that we don't necessarily need. Now, 2002's New Century Ultraman Legend and 2003's New Century 2003 Ultraman Legend The King's Jubilee. Two other shorts that were included with movies. They're not included on the releases here. Unlikely to get released. 2003 Ultraman Boys Ultra Coliseum, which was 265-minute episodes that were introducing younger viewers to Ultraman. Once again, very unlikely. I couldn't even find if these got DVD releases in Japan, and they were sort of like nice, produced for a commercial aspect, less so than an actual series, so unlikely. 2004's Ultra Q Dark Fantasy was 26 episodes. It aired at a 1 a.m. time slot, which is really strange. I will put this down as a 50-50 chance of release. Much like the Ultra Q the movie, if they can get the rights to it. I don't know how well Ultra Q and Neo Ultra Q did to justify releasing them. Now, 2005 Ultraman Nexus. This was something that I sort of messed up. I said that the two bonus episodes for Nexus that weren't included in the Mill Creek DVD were just like recap specials. That was not correct. I actually had wrong information on that. The first Nexus DVD special was a director's cut of episode 29, which is 20 minutes longer than the original episode. And then the other one is episode 31.5, taking place between 31 and 32. And it's essentially like almost 2 episodes worth of stuff in between them. Those are important additions to the overall show, but you don't need them per se. And I'm putting them as unlikely because why would they release them separately? If they could have gotten them, they could have done it with Nexus. 2011's Ultra Zone, which was a variety comedy show with Ultra Kaiju. It ran 23 episodes. I mean, we could get it, but I'm going to put this as unlikely because it's a variety show. It's not like a typical Ultra drama or action series. But if we did get it, it could get a Blu-ray as it did in Japan. 2012's Ultra Zero Fight. Now, the original compiled versions into the 3 episodes of Ultra Zero Fight from the segments from New Ultraman Retsudan, this would have been included, I think, in the Zero sets. We got Ultra Zero Fight in its sort of condensed form that cut out some stuff in the Zero the Chronicle set, so I guess that's just all we're getting. 2013's Ultraman Ginga Theater Special 2. So, Theater Special 1 for Ginga was actually recut into an episode for its rebroadcast, and that was included in the Ultraman Ginga Blu-ray. The second Theater Special, which is mostly just fluff where the characters just have kaiju fight each other, was not included. This is just likely to not be included in anything because we would have gotten it with Ginga if we could have, I imagine. It's just some weird thing that happens with Ginga. 2015's Ultra Brothers special short. Also, that was like a limited thing. I don't think that's ever getting a disc release. 2019's Ultraman, in all caps, anime. I think this might happen eventually. As Netflix has said that the 3rd season is going to be the last one, I think it's going to be sometime after that we would see a disc release, hopefully a Blu-ray. And then the last thing on the pre-contract, 2019's Ultra Galaxy Fight New Generation Heroes. Like a lot of the Ultra Galaxy Fights, I think this could get released either as a standalone Blu-ray or in a bundle with Ultra Galaxy Fight, Absolute Conspiracy, Destined Crossroad, and whatever comes next. Now, the rest of this stuff is stuff that was released after the first Mill Creek releases started coming out. So I call this the post-contract. Like after they signed the deal, this is stuff that came out that would have to re-sign for this. I'm going to go through these a little quicker because these I think are all pretty likely to come out. First of all, Ultraman Taiga, likely coming out with a Blu-ray bundled in with Ultraman Taiga the movie. I have no doubt these are coming at some point. Taiga is the only series that doesn't have subtitles of the main shows because it never aired on YouTube. So I would say it may take a little longer to get Taiga because the subtitling work has to get done first. Ultraman Z, 25 episodes, likely a Blu-ray. It will likely come with Savenger Fight, which was a spin-off. That is just me sort of speculating because there is no movie for Zet, so they could put Savenger Fight in with it. And especially because we got Savenger Fight on Ultraman Connection. Ultra Galaxy Fight The Absolute Conspiracy from 2020, same deal as New Generation Heroes. It'll either be a standalone release or bundled with other Ultra Galaxy Fights. Ultraman Trigger, likely going to get released as well, Blu-ray, as well as its movie, Episode Zet. Now, the Marlu Dex and Secret Origins of the Nurse Desi spin-offs, I'm going to give these a 50-50 shot because we haven't even gotten these on Ultraman Connection. These were Super Rai Imagination exclusives for the streaming service in Japan, but we'll see if we actually get them. I'm not exactly sure if we would. Now, 2022 Shin Ultraman is not being released by Mill Creek, but Cleopatra Entertainment, and details on that are forthcoming, and I'll make a video, of course, when that comes out. Ultra Galaxy Fight The Destined Crossroad, same thing with the other Ultra Galaxy Fights. I could really see that maybe when the fourth one comes out, which they're sort of leading that maybe that'll be like the grand finale of the Absolutian arc, that all four of those could be bundled into one set together. Ultraman Decker, even though it just finished wrapped airing, I think that's likely for a Blu-ray as well. Just again, renegotiating contracts. And that will likely include its movie as well. And the Gut Select Meeting Records Return of the Special Section 3, also 50-50 like the spin-offs for Trigger. Just not sure if it's going to come over because we don't get it on Ultraman Connection. Now, there are compilation films that I put all as unlikely because compilation films just don't sell that well in North America because people would just rather get the TV series, it seems, unless the films change things like the Gundam ones. But with these are mostly just, here's some fights repackaged into a new movie. So these movies I don't think are coming out. Ultraman Monster Movie Feature, Ultra 7, the Episode 18 movie version, Ultraman Ultra 7 Great Violent Monster Fight, The Return of Ultraman, which is a episode 5 and 6 compilation, the Ultraman compilation film 1979, Ultraman Great Monster Decisive Battle, Ultraman Zophie Ultra Warriors vs. the Giant Monster Army, Revive Ultraman, and the Ultraman Theatrical Edition compiling the first season of the anime. These just don't seem like they need to happen because a lot of these don't feature new footage. Now, the Ultra Fight / Chronicle series do feature new footage, and I think for that, they are kind of a 50-50 because we did get Zero of the Chronicle, so maybe all of them will be available at some point. There is 1970's Ultra Fight, which was 196 episodes. There are a lot of short episodes. Maybe they could do that. 1994's Ultra Super Fight, which I believe has a lot more new footage than Ultra Fight does. 2011's Ultraman Retsudan. 2013's New Ultraman Retsudan, which are at 104 and 155 episodes apiece, and those are like normal length episodes. So I haven't put those as very unlikely. Ultraman the Prime was 20 episodes, but exclusive to Amazon Prime, also unlikely. Ultraman Orb the Chronicle, Ultraman New Generation Chronicle, Ultraman Chronicle Zero and G, Ultraman Chronicle Z, Heroes Odyssey, Ultraman Chronicle D. I would all put those in maybe because we got the Ultraman Zero Chronicle, and those are all about 23 to 25 episodes apiece. And then Shin Ultra Fight, which is currently streaming on Ultraman Connection, might also get released because it got it on Ultraman Connection, but maybe we'll see if Cleopatra Entertainment picks that up for their Shin Ultraman Blu-ray. So if that clears up some of the things we haven't gotten yet. I think there's a lot of likelihood that we're going to get, Taiga onwards, all the modern stuff, no problem. It's things like Great Powered, USA, things like Heisei Ultra 7 that we didn't get in the initial batch that I'm kind of hoping will come out. And then there's a bunch of random stuff that we'll probably never see. But the fact that we already have like 75% of the Ultra series on Blu-ray DVD in North America is amazing. And I got to give my compliments to Mill Creek for that. And hopefully, as time goes on, we continue to get high-quality releases, and the releases get better over time, because I do think that while the DVD side has been sort of a bummer compared to Blu-rays, they have been good DVDs for the most part, so I can be grateful for that. But on that note, that's it for this video. If you enjoyed it, hit the like button, hit the subscribe notification bell. There's much more Ultraman videos to cover in the future. The next Ultraman release is a weird one. It's a collection of Red King episodes, which that is listed as a 2-disc Blu-ray, and there's a bunch of episodes on there from shows that were only released on DVD. So I'll be picking that up to find out what the heck is up with that, and if they're any better on that collection than they were on the individual series sets. Also, be sure to leave a comment down below and tell me anything or ask me a question on anything that happened in this video. Also, follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at Soundout12. You can also find me here on YouTube live Mondays at 5 p.m. Eastern. Check out Hero Club for Ultraman interviews, reviews, and more. We have interviews with Shawn Nichols. We have interviews with Ben Furia. We have interviews with Takashi Yagi, so go check them out. They are really great interviews of these iconic Ultraman and Ultra series creators. And also be sure to check out my graphic designer on Twitter at DarkClaw643. And until next time, this is Soundout saying goodbye.